Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we're going to be doing another deck tech for Victor Goldman High and Mighty. This is going to be for CC, and I'm super excited to talk about it. As a lot of you probably already know, I am a Guardian specialist. Was playing Bravo for a very long time. I still love Bravo, but I've been focusing a lot on Victor since he was released in Heavy Hitters. I released a video a few weeks ago when the set kind of first came out with a sledge build focused around a very specific niche of making a vigor every turn, and sledging for a lot of extra value. And while I think that build is powerful, I don't think it's the perfect fit for this meta, because I believe the best deck is probably KO, and brutes are quite good. And yeah, that deck was just not really made to win clashes against brutes at all. It was kind of just made with an open field in mind. But after, I'm not sure, 50 to 100 games and many weeks of tinkering with it, and the deck is kind of still in an active place, I have a victory list that I'm pretty happy with. I think it's, you can see I put matchups right here. And if you support me on Patreon, you get kind of live versions of these decks. You can see how many changes are in the version history. And I also add notes with everything, including this matchup matrix and notes as I change stuff with my thoughts. This YouTube version will be linked. It doesn't have any of that. It does have matchups still, but it's a bit more static, right? The link in the description will just be for the video, the deck as it was in this video. So you'll see that. But this is the Patreon one, and it's a lot more. Yeah, it's just my constantly evolving deck list. This is literally the list I play on Talishar, so it also has all sorts of results on it too. But yeah, looking at the deck here, the main focus and the main idea behind the deck at the moment, so if you're watching this video right now, or much in the future, I mean, the deck might not be perfect for that future moment. At the moment, the goal is to beat KO. KO is a very powerful, aggressive brute, and we want to be winning that matchup. I believe this deck is favored into KO, and into brute in general, especially Levia and KO. Rhinar is a bit harder because of Intimidate, but I believe it's favored. You can see, yeah, once again, the list here. And yeah, I think this deck's in a pretty good spot. It has a few bad matchups, but I don't think they're too different from the traditional bad matchups for Guardian. Kano is pretty unbeatable. Control Item Dash is pretty unbeatable. And then Teklevossen and OTK Viserai. Basically, all of those are decks that just set up. And our deck's not super fast. You can do maybe 10 to 20 damage on really high roll turns, and you're more consistently like 8 to 12 damage a turn. So those decks can usually just block you out and set up for a kill with their big combo. The unfavored matchups are kind of illusionist plus some setup decks and some evasive decks. What I mean by that is Dromai and Prism are illusionist, which can set up permanents like dragons and auras, which are hard to deal with. They're not impossible though, because we have so many poppers that if you're able to rush them down fast enough, you can win. Rhinar is just hard because Intimidate, if it intimidates our block cards, is very bad because we can't arsenal them. Max is hard because he's basically just like a slightly less setup-y Teklevossen. He sets up his big Nitro Mechanoid, and then that's hard to beat. And then Bolton, I don't think is that bad, but the Saber Bolton can also combo us. I don't think Raiden's horrible, but the Saber Bolton is just another combo deck. Basically, we're pretty bad into combo decks. If they have a big combo they're setting up for, Victor just doesn't kill them fast enough. But hopefully the aggro decks kill all the combo decks, because that's traditionally what combo is weak to. If they just die really fast from a aggro deck dealing 30 plus damage, then we can beat those decks. You can see the good decks that we have a high win rate into are basically every single aggro deck in the format, minus a few of the really strong ones. Like KO is only in the favored category because he's just so strong. And then the rest of the favored decks we're still good into, but there maybe are just really powerful decks like KO, Levia, and Kasai are all a bit more aggressive, but and Dorinthia, but those are just like the better aggro decks, so we're not just crushing them. I think we're the better Guardians, so we beat Bravo, and then I think we also beat Azuri, and then yeah, we kind of beat everything else on the list. So I think the deck's in a great spot, but let's talk about why I think we beat KO, right? Because that's kind of a bigger claim. I need to kind of back it up. So why do I think we beat KO? Well, the whole idea behind this deck basically is to have as many like 7 to 8 plus powers as possible, because we want to be winning the clashes. So yeah, we're just playing not a lot of 6 or lesses. the idea here is, of course, KO is playing almost entirely 5 and 6 powers. So when you clash, they're going to reveal usually a 6 or 7 on top, right? If it's 5, it becomes a 6. If it's a 6, it becomes a 7. So they're revealing typically a 6 or a 7 on top. And we want to reveal 7 or 8 or higher, right? So the deck is really built around that. You can see one of the big things we're missing are most of the 6 power blues from the main deck. The only one we have here is Debilitate, and I'd rather run something else, but I don't really think there's a better option for the most part. We do have 2 blue Chokeslams in the sideboard right now, but those are kind of iffy. And then the other Chokeslam and Buckling Blow are not even in the deck. They're in this massive maybe board here with all my different things that have come in and out. Because those aren't going to win a clash against KO, right? Like straight up, 6 is basically never going to win against KO. It will usually tie or lose. So I'm not super interested in those. Most of my blues are either here because they are going to win the clash. So for example, an 8, a 7, an 8, then we have another 8 with Thunderquake. So all of those blues will win a clash, or they're just never going to win the clash, which is okay. Like Rouse the Ancients is a 0. It's never going to win that clash, but we don't really expect it to. And that's okay. You have to be pitching some blues anyways, and yeah, you can't. If I could run all 8 power blues, I would, but we can't. So, but I don't really want in the middle. I want it to either win the clash or just like not even care, because yeah, it's not worth running these. And then all of our reds are basically here, except for the block cards like Trounce and Test of Strength, which we just have to run because they're very good. They're all going to win clashes for the most part. So we've got some 8s with Chokeslam and Debilitate. We've got a 9 with Prime to Fight, a 14 with Pulverize, so that'll always win. It's the highest power card in the game. A 9 with Spinal Crush, and then a 10 with Thunderquake. The only red that will lose, that's an attack at least, is Enlightened Strike here. But the others, Trounce and Test of Strength, aren't going to win either, but those are kind of our power cards. Oh, and then we have the yellow, which is a 7, which will also win a lot of the time. So I think I can, let's see, I have to use a clash calculator here. Let me pull up actually my KO deck list. Yeah, let's just copy a link to that. So there is a clash calculator. Let me get the KO matchup, and then we can clash. We lost that clash, but it gives you a percentage here. So this is my Patreon KO deck, I think, is literally Yuki's deck, basically. But we have a 51.3% chance to win our clashes. So a little over 50%. We have a 10% chance to tie, and then a 38.1%, so almost 40% and roughly chance to lose. So, of course, we are not always going to win the clashes. We are favored to win the clashes over half the time, but we are not always going to win the clashes. But we're relying heavily on winning those, and also we are intentionally bringing the shield, which gives us a gold to start with. I think this is required into KO because winning the clashes is everything. Like, everything about that matchup is winning the clashes. So you want to block for 2 with the shield very, very early, as soon as it's viable to, basically. And then you're going to use it for its gold to reroll. Once you reroll it, hopefully you can win that, of course. Don't reroll it if you don't think you're going to win. But for example, if you both reveal, if he reveals a 6, you reveal a 5 or a 6, you might want to reroll yourself to win. Then you get your new gold. And as long as you have a gold, you can keep it to keep rerolling. And then you have a huge advantage, because not only do you have a 50% chance to win, but if you lose, this is just like confirmation bias, because these are all going to be wins, of course, when I'm clicking it. If you lose one, but then I reroll, so let's say they keep the send packing, I have the Rouse. At least, yeah, I would lose. Like I said, this is not going to work how I want it to. But basically, being able to reroll makes it so you're more than 50% likely to win your clashes, right? Because you're going to win 51% of the time, but then if you lose that 40% of the time, you can reroll it. I wouldn't really recommend rerolling ties, because not only is that kind of a waste of a gold, but also they have a decent chance of winning at that point, which you don't want to have happen. So you don't really want to reroll ties. Just count that as like a 60% chance to win, because a tie is still okay. And then the 40% chance you are to lose against KO, that's when you want to reroll. And you'll kind of be able to tell who to reroll. Basically, if you're really low power, you'll reroll yourself. If they're really high power and you're okay power, like if you have a 7 but they have an 8, you might want to reroll them. But anyways, I believe the matchup into KO is good. That's all I want to say. I think it's favored because this deck is so set up to beat it, right? We're going to win the majority of our clashes, and the ones we don't win, we have the shield to start rerolling, and then when we reroll and win a gold, we'll be able to use that gold to reroll and so on. And then if you win a few in a row without needing to reroll, then you can build up some gold and start resolving some golden suns. Okay, that was a lot of talk specifically about one matchup, but I think it's because KO is by far the strongest deck at the moment, and you need to be favored into him if you want to play the deck, or I guess you could pray to dodge it. But specifically, if you're going to big events like a Calling or Pro Tour LA headed, in the future, you want to be able to beat KO. He's almost certainly going to be the most played deck, and you need to be able to beat him. And I think this deck does. So that is kind of where I want to start it. How to beat KO. You also have essentially 14 armor health. I guess 13 armor health since you're probably going to sacrifice the shield. But if you add up all of your armor here, you've got 14 total if you block with everything to the maximum value. Maybe sometimes 13, like I said, because you might sacrifice the gold, but that's a lot of health, right? Like you have like 13 to 14 extra health. It's pretty crazy. You're not really ever going to be swinging your weapon into KO. I mean, maybe sometimes, but you mostly want to be blocking and then swinging efficiently with attacks, right? So for example, you have a Seismic Surge, you want to swing one of these 4 for 8s, so you'll block with 2 cards, and then you'll swing 8 at them, etc. You have lots of good efficient attacks. You can swing for 10 right here. If you get a Trounce, you can swing good here, Spinal Crash, blah, blah, blah. All the attacks are efficient. You want to be just, using those and then blocking with the rest of your cards. That's kind of the game plan. I kind of think Victor is a bit of a more aggressive deck because we're playing a lot of these expensive attacks, like Thunderquake here, which costs 6, Pulverize, which costs as much as 10. So we aren't going to be blocking as much as you think. We're mostly going to be pitching our cards and swinging. The only cards we're always blocking with, of course, is Trounce and Test of Strength. And then we're often blocking with Clash of Might and Clash of Vigor. But yeah, the main goal is to block with like 1 or 2 cards if possible. That's like the ideal scenario. And then throw the rest of your hand at them. You do basically always want to go first with this deck because we're playing 9 Heave 3 and we're playing Tectonic Plating. So we've got 3 red Thunderquake, 3 Pulverize, and then also 3 blue Thunderquake. These are all good to heave in the very first turn of the game. So you'll pitch a blue, you get 3 Seismic Surges. Then you'll also pitch a card to Tectonic Plating to make a 4th one. So starting with 4 Seismic Surges is pretty good, and you have a very high chance of drawing one of these because, like I said, you're playing 9 of them. So yeah, you're not guaranteed, but you're like probably well over 50% chance to draw them. I think we can once again actually look. So we have 9 copies in our deck. Hand size is 1. We want to draw 1 of it. Yeah, so we have exactly a 38% chance to draw 1. We have 51% chance to draw less than 1. So about 50-50 chance. Yeah, 49% chance to draw 1 or more. So you have pretty good odds if you go first, pretty decent odds at least, of getting 4 searches, which is going to be a pretty massive advantage because when they go, you can block a bunch and then still swing for 4 million. Like you can pitch 2 blues to swing 14 and still get a block with 2 other cards, and you could potentially even block with the block card and then draw. So it's pretty gross being able to heave when you start. That's why I think these are basically, you have to play these. Like the heave cards, not only are these going to win most of your clashes for you, like 14 and 10 don't really lose clashes, but they also make going first a massive advantage with this deck. So looking at the main deck, I don't know if there's too much else I want to comment. A lot of people don't run Clash of Might. I think you want as many non-gold clashes as are playable, which is just these 2 basically, but the main reason is we're running Golden Sun, and when you reveal this, you get a gold if it won the clash, and then you would draw it, but it doesn't actually work if you have these gold cards, because if you make 2 gold, it doesn't really matter. Like Victor only draws on the first gold you make each turn, so you're kind of losing the whole benefit of Golden Sun if you're only playing Tests of Strength and Trounce, right? Like you get the +3 overpower, which is very good, but you don't get the draw it when you reveal it. So I'm playing both of these blues to try to get that benefit, which does happen, I've noticed quite often. And drawing it and getting a Might or Vigor is very good, of course, and the gold. We're also playing all the other blue reveals, Thunk and Wallop. Wallop I'm like kind of iffy on. Of course, I wish it was a 6 power for being a popper, but these are also nice. You really just want to be getting the most benefit from your clashes. And since we're running 12 clash cards, right? Like we're running Test of Strength, Trounce, Clash of Might, and Clash of Vigor, and we're also sometimes swinging Miller's Grindstone. We have 12 plus a weapon that can clash. And so we're often going to be revealing these, and getting the extra vigor or might is pretty significant. So we're a clash deck, right? I don't want to just be playing Trounce and test of strength and the rest of the deck basically be Bravo. I really want to benefit from clashing regularly. So we're leaning into that a bit more, and I've noticed it's a bit more of a powerful strategy. The rest of the deck, yeah, it's pretty standard. Like I said, we're an aggressive deck. We want to block with 1 or 2 cards, Trounce and Test of Strength. I wonder if I can draw a hand here and see. This hand's, if you have a Surge, you're not blocking at all with this hand. You're just throwing Pulverize. You can also Rouse the Ancients into Hammer and Arsenal to Pulverize. Yeah, for example, with his hand, it depends, but I think often you're going to block with the Clash of Vigor to get a Vigor and the Thunderquake, and then swing Debilitate by pitching the Wallop. You could also potentially block with just the Debilitate and swing 10 off of the Thunderquake, but that's what I'm saying. You're only blocking with 1 or 2 cards, unless you draw like that 4 blue hand like I just showed you. But like, for example, this one, you're probably just blocking with Thunderquake, then throwing 10. You're not a Miller's Grindstone deck. Like, I think the weapon, you should only be swinging like once or twice the entire game. It's not an important weapon to the deck. It's there if you need it, if you really have to swing it, but you should mostly be focusing on swinging your big attacks. Like, this is 25% of their life total, so get the benefit, right? Like, you're always going to block with your block cards. Test of Strength is great here, but then you're probably just blocking with Test of Strength and then going E-Strike Hammer, or, I mean, it depends on what you draw. You could go E-Strike for 7 and block a little more. But yeah, that's kind of the goal. You're swinging damage. You're not like a block out fatigue deck. You're going to try to kill them. And if they get low enough and they start blocking a bunch, they might fatigue that way, but you're never going to fatigue just by blocking. Okay, so I've kind of been all over the place a little bit, but kind of talked about the KO matchup, why the deck's built a certain way, focusing on 8 power, 7 to 8 power or greater to beat the KO deck, why we're playing the shields to get rerolls into KO, why heave is so important in the deck, why we have so much armor. That 13 armor health, 13 to 14 armor health is what makes it so we can be more aggro, right? Because we start at like, instead of 40 life, we have effectively like 40 or 53 or 54 life. You can block a lot of the on hits with your armor and then swing with your attacks. But yeah, let's get to the sideboard. So I should say, I'm not confident on a lot of this side, not a lot, on some of this sideboard. Let's go into edit mode here. So the only things I know I want, no matter what, is 9 of these 14 cards. So 5 of them are kind of, you can switch around. I've switched them around a bunch, like they've changed so much. So I always want the Balance of Justice. This is super important into KO, into any deck that plays Blood Rush Bellows or Art of War or Atome. Yeah, it's just really important to have. You'll probably know the matchups you need it. If not, it's in the matchup guide. But yeah, you really need this. I don't think you always want it. I think Crown is often better, so we are playing both. Crown is also important because we're playing these heave cards, and sometimes you need to crown them away. But I think Balance of Justice is worth that second slot. We need 1 Arcane Barrier at least, so we've got Nullworm Boots here. And we need Anathos for when we need to be more aggressive, like into Illusionists or into other Guardians. These are never changing. I think you'll always keep these 3 here. Some people run Arcane Lantern, which is, I think, also an option. You could also run both, which I was for a very long time. But I don't think it's necessary. I think Nullworm Boots is fine. 3 Red Macho Grande. I think this is required as well. We don't always need all of these red attacks. Some of them aren't good in every matchup. For example, into Warrior, Chokeslam is essentially blank, right? At least, I guess, not Bolton. But if you're playing against a if you're playing against a Dorinthia or a Kasai, for example, that are weapon-based warriors, Chokeslam only affects attack actions. So it's effectively a blank text box into Kasai or Dorinthia. So I still want some nice red attacks, but I don't want this basically blank bad card. So Macho Grande is an easy switch in for it. It's just really powerful. It closes games. It wins me so many of my games when I play it. I mean, 10 Dominate is really strong. It's a lot. It's hard to stop 10 Dominate. It does cost 7, which is awkward, but we're playing a lot of Vigor and Seismic Surge generation, so usually it'll only cost 6, so we can cleanly pitch 2 blues for 10 Dominate. And the last guaranteed slots are these 3 red Zealous Belting. Yeah, we need Go Again, a little extra. In the main deck, we have the Rouse and the Enlightened Strike, but we need a little extra, so we've got the Zealous Belting here for when we need it. Yeah, it's important to have. Yeah, you can't take this out. I've said yeah a bunch, but that card's super important. So the flexible slots that I haven't touched on are these 5. So we've got 1 Pummel, 2 Sink Below, to chokeslam. So like literally earlier today when I was playing this, I had a different build. This version. I can't edit it, but I can show it to you. I was playing 3 Oasis Respite, Arcane Lantern in place of that. Thought I was playing Null Rune Gloves too, but I guess not in this version. So I was playing, yeah, the Arcane Lantern, Null Rune Boots, and Oasis Respite in that slot. Oh, and I was playing Tunic in this version as well, right, to be able to play the Oasis Respites. So those were the 5 extra slots. And this was mostly for Kano, but I've tested this a bit more, and I think the Kano matchup is basically unwinnable no matter what you do. Like, I don't think it matters how many Oasis Respites you play. I think if you have a Kano in your local meta, like there's a lot at least. Like, I don't know, if you think you're guaranteed to play a Kano every time you sit down, you should probably not play Victor. You should play like Dash or Dromai or something. If you, yeah, or if you think you have a very small chance to play Kano, but you're still scared of it, you can do this 3 Oasis Respite Arcane Lantern kind of strategy, but I still don't think it's very good. So I had this earlier. I was still losing to Kanos every time because they're just so good into us, which kind of led me to take it out. And now we're kind of messing around with other things. The sync blows are like a little extra help into matchups that we need some reactions into. You can tell we don't have any D-reacts otherwise. So for example, yeah, like into Dorinthia, they're pretty helpful here. We are only on 30 blues in the main, which gives us like exactly a 50% chance to draw a blue every time. So we should have roughly 2 blues per hand, which is totally fine. Basically every card in the deck works off 2 blues, like this 6 cost. So yeah, I'm pretty happy having 2 blues per hand. Occasionally we need 3 blues if we're playing this without heaving it. But you can either just block with it, or you can wait till later in the game when you're going to have those 3 blues, because second cycle you'll have much more blues. But we are playing 2 extra if we need it. They're also poppers, which is pretty helpful into Illusionist. So I think I take out these 3 wallops. If I look at Dromai, yeah, I take out the 3 wallops and I'll add in the pummel and the 2 extra poppers, wherever they are here. So yeah, those are kind of the ideas behind it. They let us be a little extra aggressive and have some extra blues and poppers. So if we're going over 60, like into Dorinthia, you saw we were at 65 cards. It also lets us kind of keep our blue ratio okay, go up to 32 blues, sink below into decks where we need defense reactions, pummel, I don't know, a cheeky little pummel. Really, these 5 slots are pretty open. Like, you can do whatever you think works for the given meta you're in, and for the given day. Pretty open 5 slots. To be honest, I think most of the rest of the deck I wouldn't ever change. Maybe you could go down 1 Pulverize. Maybe you could go down 1 Prime to fight, since these aren't always going to be active. I don't think I would change literally any other card. I'm still iffy on the blue debilitates right now. I wish there was a better option, but there's really not. But it doesn't win against KO, which is kind of annoying. And then obviously I wish Wallop was a 6 power, at least for being a popper. You can look at the maybe board, and it's pretty massive. I was on Command & Conquer for a very long time, but it doesn't work very well into KO. Like I said, it's a 6 power, and it's just not very good at winning clashes. Like, we want our reds to be much higher than 6. So the pummels came out. Disable is just not quite good enough. Staunches are fine, but I think I like the 0 cost of Sink Below more. There's a lot of stuff in the maybe board you can always check out. But that is the deck. I hope that all makes sense. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment below. I really love talking about Guardian. If you have a lot of questions, or if you want to watch the ongoing deck list and interact with me more, you can follow me, support me on Patreon, where you can see, I think I have almost every hero a Patreon list for. Obviously, the Guardians get most of my love, but I do try to keep an updated list on most heroes. But especially, of course, the Guardians, you can see my day-to-day deck list. So keep a lookout for those. You can support me there. Like, subscribe, comment. I'm not going to end the video quite yet, though, because I want to do a way to show how budget the deck can be. But yeah, that is the deck. Please let me know anything about how it plays in the comments, any questions you have. I think I have a budget Victor deck. This deck's actually already kind of budget-ish, $540. Not cheap, but not like crazy compared to some decks that are like over 1,000. But the budget version, 130, you can start here and it's not too bad. You still get to play. I mean, the armor is still almost 13, I think, still. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's still 14 armor. So the armor actually doesn't get any worse. I mean, you're taking a lot of downgrades in basically every spot except for the tech plating. The amount it blocks is not actually worse. So yeah, the armor stays as powerful. The main deck stays almost the same. I think it's missing pulverize, and it's missing like rouse the ancients, I think. Oh, and E-strike. That's what's missing from the main deck. And then the sideboard is basically the same too. I mean, there's really not a lot you're losing. You're mostly losing the power from the equipment. But if we look at the price here, the only expensive things are E-strikes are pretty expensive. A lot of the legendary equipment is a bit expensive. You could probably keep the Gauntlets of Iron Will. They're not that expensive. Probably want to get that Orem Aegis too if you can, but these are kind of expensive. And then, yeah, Rouse the Ancients are $9 a piece, so they're a bit. But, I mean, you could upgrade the deck pretty easily just starting with the main deck I probably would get first. Like, the Rouse the Ancients is pretty important. And then the Pulverize and E-Strikes. I'll probably also get the Shield, but, like, the legs, the arms and the headpiece, you can upgrade a lot slower because it's not too bad. So, that's the budget version. I'll link it as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you next time.